In the game of basketball, defense is so important. A lot of times we see offensive players get all of the glory. We see the crossovers, the dunks, the contested jump shots. And don't get me wrong, I love a good offensive outing as much as the next person, but I got mad love for my defenders. For every contested jump shot, there's somebody fighting to stay in front of their man, fighting to make a play, fighting to make that jump shot as contested as possible. Some people say the name of the game is to score more points than your opponent. If you score more points, you win. It could all be so simple, right? But what happens when you're not scoring? What happens when your offense has an off night? You need something to fall back on. As much of a dynamo as Stephen Curry is, even he's not immune to going cold from the field. When you're cold, defense makes your life a lot easier. Big defensive stops not only stops the other team from scoring, but they can energize your team and get you an easy basket on the other end. And look, when the playoffs come around, everybody knows easy baskets won't be so easy to come by. And let's just say some players and some teams know this. The playoffs are a completely different beast. This video, we have to talk about Ben Simmons calling out Rudy Gobert and also the Brooklyn Nets. But before we go any further, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You will not want to miss another Get Like Coop video. And that's facts. For those of you that do not know, I'm a part of an amazing podcast, and it would be absolutely incredible if you guys checked it out. The link to that podcast is going to be in the description below. In that same description, you'll find the link to my reaction channel and my NFL channel. Videos coming very soon. Now let's talk hoops. For those of you that do not know, I love defense. That makes me, by default, a giant Ben Simmons fan. When everybody was always trashing Ben Simmons, saying he's not bringing enough to the table, he's not enough of a needle mover, I always pivoted the other way because I've always seen the potential that Ben Simmons has and holds. Not just the potential that he has and holds, but I also appreciate him for what he currently brings to the game. Look, I'd be lying if I said Ben Simmons couldn't take his game up another few notches. But I'd also be lying if I told you guys he didn't bring a ton to the game of basketball already. Ben Simmons is 6'11" and weighs 240 pounds. And yet, somehow and some way, he's able to do things like this.
Again, a rookie from Kentucky. Emmanuel quickly, another rookie from Kentucky. Simmons steals it from T. We'll get back to that point in a moment. A little sidestep. And there's Ben Simmons.
And this.
Simmons just takes it across the line. What a play by.
All right, you know what? Stop the video. Ben is not supposed to be doing that. 6'11", 240. Ben's skill set makes no sense at all. Far too often we hear people talk about what's his jump shot looking like. Ben doesn't shoot the ball. How can you impact the game without a jump shot? I'm not going to lie to you and say Ben is a knockdown shooter. The jump shot might not be pretty right now, and it may never be. But the beauty is that Ben is so good at everything else that it may not have to be. All of the time we hear people excited about bigs that can handle the ball and play like guards. Well, check this out. Ben Simmons doesn't just handle the ball and play like a guard. He is a guard. He's a point guard in the truest sense. And in my opinion, he's DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year. This season, Ben has had no problem letting everybody know how he really feels. The Utah Jazz have been phenomenal this season, especially on the defensive side of the basketball. They're led by their defensive anchor and past Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. Calling Gobert an anchor doesn't really do him justice because this guy is literally a one-man wrecking crew on the defensive side of the basketball. Gobert has a massive wingspan that he uses to block everything in sight. And if it's not a block, you can bet he's getting a pretty solid contest. While Rudy has been phenomenal on the defensive side of the basketball this season, I think Ben makes a pretty good point here.
Guys who can guard 1 through 5. Obviously, there's a lot of respect for Rudy. You know, I know what he's capable of. I know, you know, He's great down there in the paint, but he's not guarding everybody.
Ben is absolutely right. Gobert is not guarding 1 through 5. And look, Gobert did guard Westbrook before, and he has guarded Simmons, but look, that doesn't count. But hey, if you let Simmons tell it.
I mean, he guarded me in Utah.
And?
I had 42. And apparently I'm not a scorer, so it is what it is.
He gave that man 42 points. And guys, he's not a scorer, by the way. Earlier this season, Ben was interviewed by GQ. GQ asked Ben, why does he feel so adamantly that he's DPOY? Because typically, Ben's not really the claiming type. There was that whole thing with Donovan Mitchell and Ben, but hey. Ben went on to say, it's the same with people all around me. I tell them all the time, yo, I'm Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not even questioning it right now. I know I am. That's a fact. And numbers, certain stats are cool with certain players, but at the end of the day, you know, the example would be last night. I was supposed to guard Kevin Durant. We match up well size-wise. KD's out. The next person I'm guarding is Kyrie Irving. Like, who's doing that? It's not many players who are doing that. And to be doing it at a high level like that, I don't think there's anybody else really doing that. I mean, Kawhi, when he was really playing defense like that, of course, but it's not too many guys. My initial response was, yo, fire answer, Ben. Couldn't have answered that any better. The interviewer's response was, didn't Kyrie have like 37 last night though? Ben replied with, yeah, but we won. His plus minus was -2. It was -13. While I think Ben is DPOY, and I'm not going to say things like it's not close. You could say it's close because, you know, there is another player that I like for DPOY that I'm going to reveal in just a second. Anyways, while I think Ben is DPOY, this tweet was pretty interesting. Using Kyrie as an example after he dropped 37 on him isn't exactly helping his case. And to add on to that tweet, plus minus is not the greatest basketball stat in the world. But to jump back to Ben's side, the Nets continually tried to force a ton of switches. And I mean, come on, man. Kyrie Irving has been unstoppable this season. And to have the range that Ben Simmons has on defense, unreal. Because KD is still KD. To possibly go from guarding this
speed of Jeff Green, a guy who has filled an awful lot of holes for this Brooklyn Nets team, multi-positional,
to guarding this is next level stuff. Speaking of versatile defenders and guarding Kyrie, Bam held Kyrie to 0 of 8 when he picked him up. To some people, something like this may be a major shock, but not to me. I've seen Bam clamp Steph. I've seen Bam stay in front of ball handlers time and time again. The guy is special, especially on defense. He's so special, this Spoelstra's showing him some love for DPOY, and you know what? Me too. If Defensive Player of the Year isn't Ben Simmons, give me Bam. And while we're on the topic of the Brooklyn Nets, let's have some fun. Ben called them out. He said, obviously, Brooklyn has a lot of talent, but there's only one ball, and you gotta play defense. Since acquiring James Harden, the Nets have the 5th worst defense in the entire NBA. In the comments below, let me know if Ben is spitting facts or if he's tripping. Also, drop your DPOY in the comments below. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm Get Like Coop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.